Welcome back to Mental Health Mondays. I'm Christy, and today we are focusing on depression. Depression is one of the most common mental health disorders and has quite a wide spectrum, just from, seasonal, I don't say just, seasonal depression, postpartum depression, all the way over to, severe depression, clinical depression. So there's lots of varieties in between. So I'm kind of covering a very general, basic view of depression. Let's talk about what that is and what's classified as depression. So what is that? Depression is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. Like I said, it could be major depressive disorder or clinical depression, and it affects almost every aspect of your life and can lead to lots of other problems, both emotional and physical problems related to the depression. You'll start to have issues with normal day-to-day activities, even to the point of feeling like you don't want to be alive anymore. So I want to make sure that we're clear that we're not just talking about normal sadness or grief, though those are absolutely valid and difficult emotions to navigate. Everyday life situations are going to cause some stress, anxiety, depression. But when we're talking about clinical depression, we're talking about something that persists every day for longer than a period of 2 weeks and is more than just the sadness or more than just frustration, grief, things like that. Though we should do a whole other one on grief, because grief is a very complicated process, journey, emotion, all of that. Want to be clear that we're talking about this is not just like a bout of blues or a little slump. This isn't a weakness, and you can't just pop yourself out of it by just toughening up and pulling up on your bootstraps, though I'm all for, pushing forward with positivity. So researchers, clinical researchers, you know how I love my science and my research. I have lots of great links to post down below for you. We don't know the exact cause of depression in all cases. There are lots of different factors that contribute for many different individuals. And again, you hear me preaching this on every video, the bioindividuality of people, that how disease or a condition, an illness, a condition manifests for you can be very unique. I think we're very used to our Western worldview of that there's set treatments for each course or each condition, that there's a best recommended course. And of course, that makes it easier for medical doctors, but that's not very personalized care. And so when coming from my education with functional nutrition, I think that extends to every aspect of our life. My holistic, my oils, everyone responds differently because of, like, the first cause of depression on this list, our brain chemistry is different. So brain chemistry can be a root cause of depression. An imbalance of our neurotransmitters, specifically dopamine and serotonin, can contribute to the development of depression. Genetics are also another heavy factor that they've been able to study. If you have a first-degree relative, so like a parent, a sibling with depression, you are three times as likely to develop this condition than someone of just the average population that doesn't have a family member with depression. But again, that is not a deciding factor, and you can definitely have depression without any history of it in your family. Like I mentioned earlier, stressful life events can trigger more than just sadness and grief. They can actually trigger you to go into clinical depression, what we call. So any like death, trauma, divorce, isolation, all those kinds of things in your life can trigger a depressive episode, or even into, like I said, clinical depression. Medical conditions, actually, I think some people don't realize this, but chronic pain, chronic conditions like diabetes can lead to depression. When I was diagnosed with my cancer, we talked about that because they said this kind of chronic pain, this kind of chronic health condition almost always leads into struggles with depression. And we need to watch for that. We need to kind of be prepared to handle that part of your cancer. And I was like, man, that's, I'm not only getting diagnosed with cancer, but we're kind of preemptively deciding that, or anticipating that I will have all these other mental, emotional, physical, challenges that are going to come along with that. So if you deal with any kind of chronic pain, chronic health condition that you are trying and struggling probably to manage, depression is going to be, unfortunately, a part of that. Also, some medications can cause depression as a side effect, and some things will just worsen it if it's already there, like substance abuse, alcohol, things like that. So everyone, like I said, we're all individual and unique. And so the combination of what the causes are is probably very unique for you and how it manifests those symptoms. So symptoms could include, and I won't read them all, but like I said, feelings of sadness, hopelessness. There's also a lot of angry, irritability, frustration. Loss of interest is a really big one. That's a key indicator. I'd say that's probably a really good, not good, but a key differentiating factor from anxiety or from some other mental conditions is that loss of interest. Sleep disturbance is fairly normal, as well as kind of tied with that is like tired, just lack of energy, even when you're sleeping, or even when you're doing things that you used to love. But it can be coupled with anxiety, like I mentioned in our focus on anxiety, that video. So other things, again, this might look very different for you, and I think we have to be careful with depression because it can be a silent killer. Lots of people are able to manage it enough to that they can hide it. They can hide it in the workplace. They can hide it at home. Oh, I'm just tired, or I'm really stressed at work. And, and it's kind of insidious. It's kind of underneath there. So if you're feeling any of these symptoms, please reflect and get some help. It doesn't have to be this video, though I'm hoping to provide some great resources. Please get professional medical help. There are people out there who want to support you and who love you, and you have a lot of great things to add to the world. And I think sometimes we think like maybe I'll be less than, or people will think less of me because I'm struggling with this, because I can't get control of, enjoying my life, or, other things like that. I think we're getting to a better place about mental health stigma, but we're not all the way there yet. And I know people struggle to feel like this is valid and this is recognized when other people have, perhaps more obvious or visible conditions and challenges. So, key question here, and probably why you're watching this video, is, do essential oils work for depression? Yes. In fact, when my family first started using oils, that was one of the first things that we looked up. Said, okay, how can this help? I have a parent who, well, both parents, but parents who struggle with depression. And that was part of of growing up, of how do we manage that? How do we support them? And literally when these oils came into our life, it was a game changer. I'm not saying it removed everything. I've never touted that essential oils are miracle, magical fixes for everything in your life, but they are incredible, powerful tools to use. And so this has been a tool for the last 10, 11, 12 years in my family to help manage and address depression. So, I love my clinical studies. I found lots of amazing clinical studies that I'm going to link down below. And just off the bat, when I look up some things, I was like, oh, my citrus oils, they're so uplifting. They're so, positive and happy. And I was surprised that that's not kind of where we focused our clinical studies right now. But I'm not surprised, because our lavender essential oil just became the first pharmaceutical grade essential oil. Sorry, my cat wants to join. So lavender is our first pharmaceutical grade essential oil by the FDA. And so I think more researchers feel really confident studying our lavender essential oil, which is really powerful and amazing. So I have 5 recent clinical studies. I'm talking within the last 4 years, 5 clinical studies on the effects of lavender essential oil all with positive benefits, positive, measurable, significant clinical studies showing the power of lavender in combating depression. There are other really great studies, like I said, I'll link them below, talking about those citrus oils that I mentioned, our lemon, bergamot, ginger, peppermint, some of our herbs like clary sage, Roman chamomile, clove, cedarwood. So there's actually a really good variety, which I love for a specific condition. Like I said, we're so individual, and kind of what fills that, either that brain chemistry need for you to support in the depression, or kind of to help get the root cause of the emotion of, you know, processing a trauma or processing a grief, is going to be unique to you. One of the studies stated that statistically significant improvement occurred in depression, anxiety, and stress levels immediately and 1 month after the intervention in lavender and chamomile groups compared to the control group. And again, I'll make sure I indicate that one below. And another one, both after 2 post-tests, depressive mood was significantly, I got a little excited, significantly lower, you know, with a p-value of less than 0.001 in the experimental group rather than the control group. And we're talking about bergamot essential oil here on postpartum women. So if you've watched my other videos, I'm expecting my little girl via surrogate in early summer 2023. And my surrogate has struggled with, you know, depression, anxiety, postpartum in the past with her past pregnancies. And so I am already gearing up, ready to support her and give her some things that she needs there. So I'm especially, you know, that kind of pricked my ears, and hopefully it does for you mamas out there, you know, struggling with the juggle of motherhood and, you know, that depression that could come in afterwards postpartum. So what to use, like I mentioned, lavender, Roman chamomile. I've got some great clinical studies talk about that. My citrus oils, like I mentioned, my lemon, wild orange, definitely one of my top favorites. It's just so uplifting, so positive. So oil of abundance. So if you need abundance of love, or you need an abundance of, you know, whatever it is, that's a really great one to support you. Bergamot, lime, tangerine, green mandarin is a really great one. Then we have some mood blends with doTERRA, specifically designed for mood. Citrus Bliss, cheer, elevation. They're phasing out elevation to replace just with cheer, just because we were trying to keep our sourcing pure. That's so important to us. But they're both really great. Passion. And then peppermint is, I'm going to highlight a couple of these more in depth. Eucalyptus, our breathe blend, and then some other really great ones. Melissa's very powerful for clinical severe depression. Hope, clary sage, ylang-ylang. Clary sage, ylang-ylang are both also very hormonally supportive oils for women. And so those can be really great in kind of addressing that part of a depression, because, you know, our darn hormones, those are tricky little things. So let's talk about lavender. Again, that's the one that I found all those clinical trial studies on. Oil of communication and calm. It addresses this really deep fear that we have that can sometimes be a root under depression, the fear of being seen or not being seen and heard. And it will really support you in releasing tension, constriction that stems from kind of withholding and not expressing your true self. Again, there's the Essential Emotions book that has all of this more in detail, that is a really great resource, but they also have an app that came out recently, and I love that. And I have both. I have the app on my phone, which is a really great resource to kind of help you identify some tools in the moment, on the go. I love that. I'm not an affiliate or get any reimbursement from that, but I just think it's a really amazing tool. I'll make sure I link that below. Next one, bergamot is the oil of self-acceptance. Bergamot relieves feelings of despair, self-judgment, low self-esteem. It invites individuals to see life with more optimism. Remember, this is the one that I said, the really great study for women, postpartum women and depression. And so it's a really powerful one for mothers, specifically postpartum depression, feeling really down and hopeless. Peppermint is the oil of a buoyant heart, which I really just love. That just resonates with me. It brings joy and buoyancy to the heart and soul. It invigorates the mind, body, spirit, and reminds individuals that life can be happy. I think sometimes we do need that reminder. We sometimes think about peppermint for digestive issues and for your sinuses and for your headaches. And like I said, it just invigorates everywhere. And so this kind of can help people who are really low in depression to rediscover the joy of actually being alive. Breathe. This has been one of my best friends, the oil of breath. Very powerful with grief and pain, addresses the inability to let go of that, and supports people who feel kind of suffocated by the weight, the heaviness of sadness, encourages you to let go of the grief and sadness, and to be open to receive, love, compassion, healing, support, all of that. So that was a really powerful oil for me on my healing journey after losing my baby boy last year. And so I've seen the power of all of these, but that one most recently for me. So here's just a little sample. You're saying, okay, those are really great tools, Christy. Well, what do I do with that? Right? So here's just a sample schedule. And of course, I'd love to, if you want to make comments or send me messages, I'm happy to kind of help you customize and adapt to your own specific situation in life, what you're looking for. But here's some suggestions. You can apply your favorite citrus as part of your morning routine to pulse points, back of the neck, over the heart, wrists, temples, behind the ears. Diffuse, cheer, or breathe in your workspace, kind of depending on that need. Breathe in peppermint for a mid-afternoon pick-me-up. I was just doing it with some friends the other day, put a drop or two of peppermint in their hand with the citrus oil. My favorite is orange. So peppermint and wild orange. And I just kind of rub that together and create like a little inhaler with my hands. And breathe that in really deeply a couple times, and then rub the residue on my neck and shoulders. And then applying lavender and Roman chamomile to your chest and bottoms of your feet before you go to bed to kind of help you relax and get good rest, as well as kind of process some of those emotions and calm yourself down physically, emotionally. So there is a really simple, broad overview of depression and some support that you can get from essential oils. I know that they work. I've seen them work not just in my own personal life, but in the lives of my family members and my friends. And I'm excited about more and more clinical research that is coming out. I'll link that down below, but I look forward to hearing from everyone about what works for you and other suggestions. So thanks everyone, and I'll see you next week on Mental Health Mondays.